Hey guys, how y'all doing? This is D Durrell with D Durrell Life Solutions. Today I'm in the group room area where I provide or facilitate group therapy. I decided to go ahead and stream in this particular room since I was doing a lot of computer work and filing, and I had some assessments and so on. So I said, instead of me going back into my office, I'll just stay in here and chat with you all a bit. And we're going to discuss we're going to discuss, do white people choose therapists, choose black therapists? Okay. And I know that this is never discussed because usually we usually talk about on this channel, it has an emphasis on black mental health. And I do have a tendency to talk about the type of clients that I treat on a daily basis, the type of clientele I have, the racial and social economical background of these people. But we usually talk about, um, black or other minority therapists, and we never really focus on the white clients because a lot of black therapists have white clients. What's up, thing first? I see your eyes are like, I see your eyes are wondering. Your eyes are wondering what's going on. But yes, do white people choose black therapists? And so I'm going to talk about that. And the answer is yes. There is a large percentage of white people who choose black therapists. This is not, this is not, excuse me, this is not an anomaly. This is not something that happens on accident or rarely happens. There are a pretty healthy percentage of white people who choose and they recommend and they like their black therapists. Okay. Now, I'm going to say that we live in a Western society. We live in a European laden society. We live in America, which is an extension of Europe. Um, as far as values, values, religion, morals, culture in itself, that has a combination of various other ethnic groups and races that blend in to this society that makes the United States unique. So within that, America, you know, is a very diverse country that is about 65% plus European American, probably about maybe 18 to 20% Latin, and about 14% to 15% African American, and then the other different groups. If you look at the racial background of therapists, the majority of therapists are going to be white, particularly white females. You're going to see a percentage that are going to be Hispanic, and then you're going to see 11% that are African American, in which about 7% is black females and 4% is black men. So for black men, we're like the minority of the minority as it relates to therapists. There are not a lot of black male therapists, and then not a lot of black female therapists, period. So what I can say is that I'm going to look at this particular situation and the topic in this question. I'm going to answer it from the lens of my own clinical and professional experience as a therapist, who basically, the majority of my clients are white clients. A large like just overall in my career, the majority of my clients overall, um, as I worked for other companies and private practice, were white. Now, what I can say, as time moved along, I'm sorry, as time moved along, it's more even. I say now my practice is probably in the low 30s as it relates to white people, Hispanic, and African American, and then I have a small percentage. I may have an Asian American or an Arab American or someone like that that may come in here and there. But for the most part, my practice is like even between white, black, Hispanic. Okay. So early on in my career, as a therapist, the majority of my clients were black. Where I was dealing with children, and I would say 99% of the children were black. I think I may have seen maybe one white male that had ADHD back in the day. Um, and so when I moved to Texas, I was living in Baton Rouge, which is a majority black city. But when I moved to Houston, which is far more diverse with more people, the majority of my clientele was basically white, and I would have a few Hispanic and a few black clients. And so it was basically, I would say, 70% white. Okay. Now, once I obtained my full licensure and I began to venture off into private practice, um, it remained as such where I had white clients who sought me out or who was referred by their insurance company. And so when people think about um, you know, how people choose therapists, in which I've done shows on how people choose their personal therapist. The insurance companies highly influence that because you want to find someone that's in your network, and they're not willing. If you find someone out of your network, you're going to have to pay more for those services as it relates to the service, the therapy itself, or a higher copay. So if I am in a certain zip code, which is what they kind of go by, typically an insurance company, I'm gonna start with private insurance. Private insurance is going to link you with people that are in within a 15 to 30-minute radius of where you live or where you work. Okay, some people choose to find someone that's near their job or where they work. Okay, or a specific area that they as a client designate. And so um, if you think of a white person choosing a black therapist, particularly a black male therapist, many of the white people that have chosen me as their therapist did so because they thought that I was qualified, and the fact that I specialized in a certain area or arena that meets their criteria of the issues that they're dealing with now, and they want someone who's experienced in that area. So um I'm going to say I've had particularly white women that would specifically choose me because I specialized in trauma focused therapy, or I specialize. I said that I specialize in dealing with some certain type of relationship issues, women's issues, workplace related issues. And so, if my background, my experience is in sync with what they're wanting, a lot of my white clients overlook the fact that I'm black, and and that's my experience. Now, some other therapists could say otherwise. Okay, um, and so I have never encountered um, direct racism with any of my private clients who are more on the higher end of it, where they are paying cash or they're through their insurance. I've never, because a lot of them sought me out. They were given a listing by their insurance and they ran across my name. And yes, I did have clients that didn't know that I was black. And I had clients who would tell me they thought, because they would call. I've had clients that actually, many of them will call and get like a 15 to 20-minute consultation, definitely somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. And I will discuss with them my education, my experience with the population, the things that they're dealing with. And they wanted to know my availability and if it was convenient for them. And so those things were more important than race. And if I fit what they needed, they would agree, and some didn't. And I had those that actually thought that I was a white man, and they didn't know that I was a black man, and I did have those clients who admitted, um, I didn't think that you were white. Now they didn't do that initially. What they would usually do, what many my white clients would do, is after the first or second session, after they become comfortable in their decision to continue therapy, they would let me know that they didn't know they had a black therapist, that I was a black man, and many of them, that was not a big issue. That was not a big issue. Um, and so they were looking at all the other intangibles, and they were actually looking at if you're qualified to provide the type of counseling that I need for my particular issues. And early on in my career, most of my clientele was white. I would say probably 60 to 70% of my clientele was white. Now, as I began to provide services for more the lower economic, as it relates to Medicaid insurances, Medicare insurances, under the supervision of a psychologist or psychiatrist in certain industries and facilities back in the day, I still had a lot of white clients, and I would see more black clients, more Hispanic clients. And within those white clients that were social, that had Medicaid and so forth, some of them were surprised, and they thought that I was a white therapist. They would say that after, again, the second or third session. Many of them, particularly those that were home based, they were just happy to have a therapist, particularly if they were dealing with CPS or some type of criminal related issue in which I was referred to provide the services that were recommended by the courts, made mandatory by the courts or the particular agency that had their children in custody and so forth. So they didn't really have a choice in some of those situations. Many of them were just happy to have a therapist that was available, that could meet their time, that was convenient, and someone that they could trust in helping them through whatever issues that they had. So white people choose black therapists all the time. Now, whether or not I'm their first choice, that's another topic of itself. And I would say that in most situations, I probably was not their first choice. Okay. I've had many white clients, and most of my white clients that would call as far as wanting a 15-minute consultation, most of those were white people who were kind of asking questions, asking about my credentials, asking about my history, dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, things of that sort, who had issues with work-related things, drug-related things, or they may have had 3, 4, 5 different types of issues, and they wanted to know, was I versatile and skilled enough as a therapist to help them through their issues? Many of them did not care that I was a black therapist. They were worried about the skill and the fact of the matter, my availability, my convenience, ability to provide the services they needed for themselves and to help them long term. Okay. Shout out to Mahogany Roots. Shout out to Josephine for coming in. Appreciate you all for coming in today. And so most of my clients that were of European descent were very open in therapy, particularly the white women. Now, there's some white men that I had that, they were a little bit more difficult to open up. Excuse me, but men in general are more guarded in expressing themselves than women. So that was expected. That was pretty much expected. Many of my European American clients were very consistent in therapy. They wanted the therapy, and the racial makeup, at least the way it's presented to me, was not important. Okay, they just wanted someone that could provide the services, had the experience to deal with the issues that they encountered. And so I wanted to talk about some of the issues that my white clients would talk about. It was no different. Their issues are no different than any other group of people. Now, as far as how they respond and the dynamics of those issues were different, but many of my white clients came in uh, to therapy because they had a lot of relationship related issues. They had a lot of workplace. I had a heavy amount, large percentage of clients hated their boss. They hated their career. They didn't get along with staff. It was things like, it was a lot of professional related issues. They couldn't stand certain people. A lot of educational related things as it relates to their careers. A lot of my white clients had issues as it relates to the stress of being in a program to get a master's degree, bachelor's degree, going back to school. Um, I had very, very unique situations in which I had clients that, man, I just had, they come from a lot of just very, very diverse backgrounds and situations. I'm going to tell you about one very unique client that I had. I had family therapy with a white mother, middle-aged white mother, and her son. The mother basically just wanted a child, and she paid to be paid for the paid for services at a fertility clinic to have a son. She had to have a child. Okay. Now, what she didn't realize is that she didn't foresee that in the future her son would thirst for male attention, male camaraderie, love. And the fact of the matter is that, the effect of seeing other kids with dads. And she was not married and she was not dating. And the son did talk about issues of mom not being married, um, not having a male figure, because it did affect him. Although he stated when he was younger he didn't think about it, but as he became older, it became apparent that something was missing. So I've had therapists like that. I mean, I'm sorry, I've had clients like that who had these unique set of circumstances. I've never had those particular set of circumstances with other groups of people, but I did have white clients who had fertility services, and they talked about the stress and depressive related symptoms that stemmed from lack of fertility, and how it affected their relationship, and how it affected their marriage. Okay, and the blame and the family, that were involved. I've had white clients talk to me about issues as it relates to inheritance and the issues of dealing with people uh, wanting their share of certain inheritance by the great grandmother, grandmother, or whomever. And those situations can get very, very ugly. Oh, I had a host of situations like that. And I'm going to be honest. I had a situation where this um, was an older white lady. She was like in her 90s, and they were literally waiting on this woman to pass away. And this lady was worth at least upwards of $100 million, somewhere between 80 to 90, 80 to $100 million. And they were in the oil industry, and she had a lot of land, accumulated wealth over time. The mom was from a foreign country. I don't remember the foreign country she was from. She married an American white man, and the family was really, which a lot of them were not, because they were spoiled. didn't do things in their life, and they just basically lived off of her, and they were not very ambitious, and it caused a lot of issues with, particularly with the older daughter who sought services, and she didn't care that I was a black therapist. She just wanted a therapist that had the presentation and the personality to deal with the complex issues of their family. Okay. Now let me see. I have questions in here. Shout out to Shardy, WD Dawsey states, you seem very knowledgeable. What's one word of advice you'd give to the youth on how to be successful? Okay, I'll deal with that even though it kind of deviates from the topic. Okay. Also, Liquid Dream, shout out to Liquid Dream. Liquid Dream state, I am a white woman. My black woman partner is in a mental health care ward. 6 months section, or 6 months ago, I would say. I've spoken to many therapists and black friends, but she always be crazy. Okay. All right. So let me get to that. And because you are a white lady, Liquid Dream, I will speak on that because I have dealt with interracial LGBT related relationships, particularly with women. I've dealt with white women with Hispanic women. I've dealt with white women who dated black women and or other different races. So I've dealt with that. So this is not an out of the ballpark question. So before I get to that, I'm gonna go back to Shardy that wanted to know what is my advice that I give to the youth. My advice to the youth is to not compromise who you are to fit the needs of other people. And the reason why I'm telling you that is because there are so many people who develop stress and other related mental health issues because they're trying to fit in, they're trying to meet the needs and the acceptance and the validation, and we don't necessarily understand the stress that comes about with you trying to cater to other people and to mix in with other people. If you can't naturally, and I'm speaking to the youth, if you cannot naturally gravitate to certain people, you should not change who you are in order to be accepted. If they cannot accept you who you are, do not put yourself through mental distress to fit that environment. Okay, that's my advice to that. Because so many youth go into different directions because my friends do it. Everybody says it's cool. Or, I want to go into this industry or do that because everybody else, in which whatever is the core of who you are, you should not deviate from that for anybody. Okay? This is who you are. They learn to accept you. Work on your self-esteem through time. And if they can't accept you, then that's not the type of person you need to be around. Okay, now let's get back to Liquid Dream. Okay, she talked about her partner, who's a black woman, who has mental illness. She's spoken to many therapists, but she always be crazy. So my position on that, Liquid Dream, is that I don't know the issues, and I don't want you to necessarily express all of the issues that are related to your partner, okay? But what I will say is that your partner sounds unstable. And so in your position, I'm going to encourage you to provide support and also assist your mate in whatever psychological and psychiatric treatments that she needs. Meaning, you should be involved in her treatment to make sure that she is consuming her medication. Okay? You should be involved in her treatment again. And this has nothing to do with the fact that you all are a same-sex couple or anything like that. Because that, to me, takes a back step to the fact of the dynamic of her having a mental illness. I'm going to encourage you to assist her in every way to make coping with her mental illness easier. Okay, so to provide verbal support, provide emotional support. Okay, assist her and be involved in her treatment, seeing a psychiatrist. Now you talked about therapists. Now, so there are several ways that we can look at you providing as far as the services that you all should provide. I would encourage you to seek a clinician who is licensed as a professional therapist, psychologist, social worker, who has experience working with LGBT issues. Okay, and also with that, there also could be potential issues related to the fact that you all are of two different race and two different cultures. Okay. And I would not encourage you to seek a therapist that has no experience dealing with same-sex relationships or interracial relationships, despite their credentials. Okay, this is about their experience and their ability to understand and assess and treat issues that relate to, in full circle, in full context, of something that reflects your situation with your partner. Okay, so Liquid, you should be heavily involved in your partner's treatment. Okay, if this is the person that you are committed to, I understand you use the term "she always crazy." Okay, well, she may always act in a certain way because maybe she's not getting the support that can assist her in coping and managing her mental illness. Because you are her partner, Liquid Dream, you have put yourself in a position where part of this relationship is assisting her and helping her and supporting her through mental illness. Okay, so if you're not able to do that, Liquid Dream, you can go see all the therapists, you can go to all the psychiatrists, give all the medicine, but if you're not providing that backbone for her, then the relationship is not going to work. And then the term you use, she will always act crazy. And the reason why is because she needs assistance. She sounds like she's constantly being hospitalized. And listen, everybody's not built for that. Okay? And the fact of the matter, the mental illness affects the relationship. Now, there could be other variables that she may verbalize and why she may act and respond a certain way. So, but I would encourage you all, just looking at this for surface, if you would like more detailed information, Liquid Dream, you can hit me up at amburn1718@gmail.com, and I will give you more detailed private as far as how you should function in this situation. Again, that's amburn1718@gmail.com. I could talk to you a little bit further in more detail, more clinical. But the fact of the matter is that sound like your partner needs a psychiatrist, she needs a personal therapist, and she would also need a therapist for y'all related. She has a therapist for her mental health and a therapist for her relationship issues, or that one therapist can do both, which I've done both. I have worked with clients where I saw them separately and I saw them in relationships, in their relationship issues. And those are two separate things. Okay. So it can either be together or conjoint therapy or whatever that could fit. Also, Liquid Dream, it also appears to me that you're stressed out and overwhelmed, and that you may want to maybe think about having a therapist for yourself, for the fact of what level of psychoeducation and understanding that I may need in order to assist my partner in the issues that we are dealing with, and how the stress of me dealing with my partner, how it is affecting other areas of my life. Shout out to DBZ Nation. Shout out to Sometimes I Get Carried Away. How you doing? We on lock. And also Stephanie Collins is in the house. Appreciate you all for being here. Stephanie Collins stated there can be a lot of stress on a subconscious of people in the same sex relationship because there may be a degree of unacceptance by family, community, society overall. Yes. And as a therapist, I address all of those issues, particularly, and I've dealt with same-sex interracial couples. And yes, racism does come about on both ends of the spectrum. I've dealt and I'm talking about, I know I'm talking about my white clients right now because I'm talking about how white people choose black therapists because white people actually choose black therapists. I'm a testament to that. I have other colleagues who are black who have a large percentage of white clients. Also, you want to keep in mind, as a culture, European Americans are more open to therapy. Okay, other cultures, particularly other minority cultures, they're not as open. Particularly, and I'm gonna say, African Americans, we are doing better. But at one time, it was very difficult to get black women or men to do therapy. Now, I would say black women are open to therapy, but black men, we're hard-headed as it relates to these type of things. And there are a variety of reasons for that. And I'm not going to get into that today, but because we are talking about our white clients, okay? Shout out to the queen before you react. Shout out to the queen. How you doing, baby? I'm looking forward to my next popsicle video. Let me not get off topic. All right. Okay. So, also, as it relates to the white clients that I have, many of them, not only are they have a therapist, but many of my white clients talk about the fact that they are cooperative in medication in combination with therapy. And that's quite different from other groups, particularly Black and Hispanic clients that I've had, that they may seek therapy, but they don't want to there is a level of hesitancy as far as medication. And there are clients that I may recommend you may need therapy. And there's those that I don't. Okay. And not for everybody. But what I can say, for a lot of the white clients that I have, the combination of pharmacological treatment and psychotherapy is a must. It's a necessity. Okay. Also, I've noticed that with white clients, there is a level of transference and counter-transference that can occur when they're seeking a Black therapist, even if they're open to choosing you. Now, I've had clients who were hesitant to see me. They chose to see me, but they were not confident in my abilities because I was Black. And, that was processed. And so as a therapist, now when I was younger, I'm going to admit, I took it personal when a client would say, we decided to choose another therapist that may fit better, or, and whether or not the purpose may have been because I was Black or not, to me was irrelevant. I felt like, I'm a good therapist. I can do it. Give me a chance. I can prove it. But now, as a more polished therapist, I understand the importance of consumer choice. Okay? Because consumer choice is a privilege, but not necessarily it's a right. And if no matter how skilled I am as a therapist, if it's something about me, the way my delivery, how I conduct myself, how I facilitate therapy that's just not gelling with that person, then they have a right to choose someone else, whether it's related to race or not. It is not racist for a white person to say I tried to connect with a black therapist, and I think that I am better suited for a white therapist. That's not racist. That is a preference based on the fact that they did it. They felt like they want someone that reflects how they look racially. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Most of my white clients don't feel that. They didn't feel that way. Now, some of them were surprised as it relates to um, how well they benefited from therapy from me. But or they didn't think that as a black man I would could or could not understand certain things. And so, but that just comes with the territory. When you are trained and you're competent, it can kill and break down barriers of any type of racial, myth or fallacies that may operate within your mind. So it's just a matter of, as black professionals, when you're being excellent, it breaks those walls down. And so my job is that I try to be excellent. I try to operate at a high level each and every time and give everybody the best services that are possible. Okay? So we want to understand that, okay? The queen before you rack say that, LOL, I'm doing my next popsicle video either today or tomorrow. I want to let you know I'm looking forward to it. I am definitely looking forward to it. Okay, so Nicole Marie states, hi, Mr. D. Therapy is important. There is a stigma on therapy in our community. It sure is. White community, not so much. That is also correct. I appreciate your recent videos on therapy. It's hard to find black therapists. It's very hard. We only make up 11% of the industry. 7% black females, 4% black males. Okay? So it is not easy to find a black therapist or a black female or male therapist, period. I know for a fact I can count on one hand the amount of licensed therapists that I've dealt with, that I've worked with throughout my career. I can count. I've worked with, and some of those therapists I trained to become therapists, and so I have not worked with a lot of. But now I've worked with. As a matter of fact, I haven't worked with a lot of black female therapists either. I have it's more than males, but mainly in my environment, I see a lot of white females, and you will see some black males. Not a lot of black men, and you will see the existence of black females, particularly in certain arenas, and so forth. However, there are not a lot of black female therapists. Matter of fact, I'm just kind of thinking about it. I don't think there are plenty of places that I have worked at before going to business for myself where I have seen maybe one or two black females that work. Now, I have seen a lot of black female therapists work in social service agencies. I've seen a ton of those. There's certain government agencies where you will see a lot of black females working, particularly the Department of Family and Protective Services, the Health and Human Service Commission, some educational related. You will see a lot of black females. You will not see a lot of black males, period. But as it relates to the private sector, you will not see a lot of black females or black males, period. And right now, guys, I am blessed right now to the fact that I do have I have actually two black female therapists and one black male therapist and I'm a black male therapist myself. So I have three contract therapists working for me right now, and two of them are black females and one of them is a black male. Okay. 9 months ago, all of my therapists were white. I had one white male and two white females, and it's interchangeable. It changes, but I also will say that um, when I talk about the white men, I'm talking a lot about white females in therapy. When we talk about the white men who come to therapy, many of these white men come into therapy because they feel stressed out, okay, and they feel overworked, and a lot of them come in with issues as it relates to their role as a father, as a husband, and they overextend themselves a lot and they stress themselves a lot. I deal with a lot of white men as far as related to substance abuse related issues where they adopt certain types of behaviors to deal with the fact that they work 70, 80 hours a week. And this ranges from all levels of professions. But most, I'm going to say 70 to 80% of the white clients that I have is work related, stress related, educational related, financial related issues. Okay. I do have some that will deal with as it relates to, just depression or other, mental health related, some level of psychosis or behavioral issues with their children, parenting issues. The single black mother, and I'm going to talk about, and I'm sorry, we like to, and I know in certain spaces they love to talk about the struggles of black females as single parents. The struggle with white females with parenting their children, particularly their young boys, is equally as bad. They deal with the same issues. It is equally as bad. There were white women that came in that had no clue of how they're going to deal with the behavioral issues. There was a lot of anger towards, and this is something that I assess differently with white people as it relates to black people, and particularly as it relates to services, as it relates to government, particularly in education. When I deal with a white parent, the anger that they show towards the educational system or other government agencies when they are not treated fairly is times 100. And the fact of they will go above and beyond to make it known, contact people, get lawyers legally, all of those. They'll go through things. As far as with a black parent, it's almost like it's expected, and they feel helpless, they feel defenseless, and then I have to go through some education to kind of give them some psychoeducation on how they can fight the issues that are going on. But the anger that they show, the level of anger and stress behind it is deep. And so we have to understand when you're counseling different groups of people, their responses can all be deemed positive or negative in a certain way. It's just the way they go about it and how they function through those problems can be a bit different. Okay. So Liquid Dream stated, I've been with my partner 10 years. I'm talkative. Therapist is about their personality. Unfortunately, my partner is not about the talking. Okay. And so the reason why your client, and I'm going to tell you, the reason why your partner probably is not about the talking is because their mental health symptoms are not at a stable level where they can be open to that level of processing. And until she is stabilized, Liquid, she probably will never be as open to that because there's so much mental health distress. I don't even know whether or not right now, I don't think she doesn't sound stable enough for couples therapy or relationship therapy. So I would say let's tackle that first. Her mental health side, get her stabilized, and then at some point we can focus on a therapist in which she could feel comfortable to talk about relationship issues between you and her. Okay? Shout out to Lori, aka Lolo. Miss Lolo, what's going on? Happy to see you here. Say hi, Darrell. My psychiatrist is white, but my daughter is a brand new psychologist. Congratulations to her. She is in a very unique group because there are not a lot of black female psychologists. Kudos to her. They're going through the stringent um, um, studies and getting her master's, her bachelor's degree, her PhD, becoming a licensed psychologist. Kudos to her. So, there's a lot of opportunities out there for a psychologist, particularly in therapy, research, testing. The sky is the limit. And it's up to her how she wants to do it, or if she wants to work the university route, which doesn't pay as well. But I would definitely, there's definitely a need for her, and you must be proud. Okay. Stephanie Collins stated, "Do you think men are socialized away from choosing counseling therapy fields as a profession because they perceive it as a caring profession?" That's a good question. It's not that men are are not socialized to do it. Culturally speaking, men are not socialized not to go into certain arenas. The issue is that when you look at men as a whole, um, we're not as communicative as women are. There are studies that have been done that women, as far as the amount of verbiage and words that women speak at least twice as much as men do throughout a day. The amount of words that they utilize, the expression. Men also, because of the way we are genetically and physically built, we take a liking to more physically challenged work, things that use your hands, things that have more of a visible outcome. And so when we talk about things as it relates to therapy, that involves sitting and talking and processing, a large percent of men don't want to engage in that because they don't see it as being productive. Men don't like going to therapy because men have been socialized by men and women to not show as much emotion, and the fact of the matter that men and male mothers and fathers teach boys to suppress their feelings. So being that a lot of boys grow up with that, not saying that is relatable to all young boys growing up in their household, but the fact of the matter is that when males express their emotions, they get a different reaction as opposed to females expressing their emotions. The level of empathy that a little girl can express in distress, or the same, a boy, no matter what race, can express the same level of distress. And research has shown that as far as the empathy level and even sympathy, which, but in therapy, we focus more on empathy, it's not perceived the same. Okay, so there are societal factors that contribute, they're genetic and societal factors that contribute to why men choose not to go into a profession like counseling. Okay, and also the fact of the matter is that counseling, it is an industry where you can make a good living, but it's not also seen as a glamorous, more glamour related fields where you can hit it big and get a bag, even though you can get a bag in therapy, depending on how you use and the things you want to do. But men are also looking at industries that are perceived as high net worth, and counseling fields, even though you can make a good living, is not traditionally seen as a high net worth yielding industry. Okay. Oh wow. Lolo says her older daughter is now a assistant principal. Yeah, you should be proud. Kudos to you. Lolo states men are more analytical, where men or women are emotional. Um, I would say that that statement, when we talk about analytical, is not that women can't be analytical. Is that when we are given a set of problems, is the initial reaction from men, or the foundational reaction from men, can be quite different than women. Women also can be analytical. It's just that when we look at the range, the normal range of showing emotion for a man is different than a normal range for women. And women have a tendency to be more emotion, or act in a more emotional or more feeling orientated perspective, as opposed to men may appear more stoic and look at resolving an issue instead of reacting emotionally to the particular issue. Okay, but that does have some truth to it. Okay, but it doesn't mean that women can't be analytical, and it doesn't also mean that men can't be emotional, because there are a lot of emotional men. Unfortunately, guys, and this is another issue we have to understand. Overly emotional women don't go to prison. Overly emotional men go to prison. And that is the difference of why we work on men suppressing certain feelings and thoughts, because men have more of a violent tendency, a more of an aggressive tendency. Okay, and so a lot of overly emotional men can be very violent, and they commit violent crimes, as opposed to overly emotional women are stationary. Okay, but for men, we're liable to start swinging, throwing things, or acting in a very aggressive manner if they're overly emotional. And as a man, it is incumbent upon us as men, particularly black men, to be emotionally in control, because bad things happen as black men when you are emotionally out of control, because you're going to be perceived as being dangerous, and they're going to react to you accordingly. So let me pivot back to my talking about white clients. Okay, so as my career progressed, okay, as my career progressed, it became more even, that I see about 33% white, about 30% Hispanic, um, somewhere around 25 to 30% white client, I mean, black clients. And it's interchangeable. Right now, I would say I am seeing probably more white clients. Black and Hispanic is third right now, but it changes. But what I can say, guys, during COVID, I'm gonna say from April 20th, April 2020, up until about maybe the summer of 2022, or the end of 2022, the majority, I had a huge influx of relationship therapy that I provided to black couples, married, divorced, separated, dating, just people just dating. Um, I never in my life saw it was a huge, and it was for various reasons, because of the stress of dealing with COVID and spending time. It created a whole host of issues for a lot of couples. There are a lot of people got divorced due to COVID. That is an issue that relates to that. So I had a lot of white clients also, but I had a huge influx of black clients that came in. But during that period, I had a lot of white couples that came in for therapy, and I had a lot of white couples that dealt with a lot of issues. I'm happy to say that a lot of those white couples stayed together through the thick and thin, and it was not easy. And I'm gonna be honest, the approach the approach to marriage is totally different in black culture as it relates to white culture, because when I was encountering the therapy that I had with a lot of my white clients, um, they were dealing a lot with legacy related issues, property, finances, the co-parenting aspect of the game. And also they dealt a lot with how the family perceived them for getting a divorce. In the black community, that's depending on if they're like religious, maybe, but that was not an issue as it related. There would be sessions where people like we were looking at if the relationship was salvageable, and part of them trying to reconcile was whether or not it was economically appropriate for them to stay together or not. That was a big part of it. And I'm gonna be honest, man or woman, if they felt like it was not economically beneficial, they were not staying married. Other coaches, are we gonna gun it out and make it work? No. Listen, I'm just gonna be honest. Some of those relationships worked, some of them didn't. But what I can say is that once you break down the barriers and they become comfortable, that this type of clientele or my white clientele become comfortable, they're consistent, very consistent. Matter of fact, guys, I have had my longest standing client right now is an elderly white man that has been with me. I've been providing therapy for him for 8 years. 8 years. He had a host of severe family related issues. He had issues with his children, his wife. They eventually got a divorce. They stayed connected. Then there was some issues that he had some grieving related issues. Very consistent. He took breaks. He'd come back. Very open to me. Connect very well with me. It's been a pleasure helping him grow. And he's over the age of 65. And he values my services very much. He values it very much. I had another client that stood for me for years. I had one client, she was with me for about 5 or 6 years. She was a white female, probably in her early 30s, who was grieving over her son's death. She was consistent with me for about 5 or 6 years, nonstop. She took some breaks here and there. She had a lot of other little relationship related issues, and she was learning to kind of cope with with the loss of a child and moving on with her life. And the fact she also had to deal with some other issues as it related to the child's father that they shared. But they were very consistent. A lot of my long-term clients who were there for years were white. I do have some black clients who have been with me. Matter of fact, I have a client right now that lives on the West Coast, and she's been with me right now for about 5 or 6 years. And it is on and off. And so what I can say when she's a black female, but when she comes to therapy, there's some issues going on. She comes when she doesn't waste time. When she knows she needs therapy, she seeks it out. Okay. Lolo states, do they see it more of a business relationship? They do see, when you say business relationship, are you meaning a relationship, Lolo, with me as a therapist or with their marriage? Because I'm going to answer both of those. I'm going to say that they do see it as a business relationship. Now, I'm not going to say that business relationship as relates to marriage. Um, um, it's not more than the actual emotional side of it, but they do see the business side of it. And if it ain't making sense, it ain't making sense. Okay? And that's just how they look at it. And so for us, me therapeutic wise, it's business and it's therapeutic because they do understand they are paying for those services. Changing spaces. Shout out to you. Appreciate you for coming here to D the Real Life Solutions. Changing spaces stated, D Darrell, did you address the lady that fell in love with her psychiatrist and blamed him? I missed that. I don't know who stated that. I may have missed that. I don't know who stated that. But since you brought it up, I'm going to close with that because I do have a client that is ready to go. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so I'm going to end with this one. It's a big controversy talk on TikTok. Oh, okay. So changing spaces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make that the next topic on my live stream and do my research on it. But what I am, just for surface level, I'm going to talk about the fact that the therapist client relationship is a very intimate and a very can be a very close gray area type relationship where people can let their emotions romantically get in the way. And a lot of that stems from issues going on in their life that are missing, and then they're connecting with another person. Now, there is I'm gonna say that there are clients who fall in love with their therapist. Okay. I have had clients that have came into my office inappropriately. Yes, they were inappropriate. Yes, I've had clients that have had said inappropriate things to me in therapy, and many of them, I gave them one chance to move past it, and if they couldn't, if it happened again, I terminated the relationship because it is unethical, and you can potentially lose your license if you cause some level of mental anguish. But if you do decide to get in a relationship with them, that is unethical and you can lose your license. Okay. So I'm going to end on that, guys. I have a therapist. I got two more clients for today, guys. It was a joy speaking to you all today. This is D Darrell with D Darrell Life Solutions. Have a great day.